Hi everyone, warm welcome to our CSR Talks, a series of conversational chats around the main CSR issues and initiatives carried out with companies all across the world. Today's topic is best practices to ensure respect and fair work environments with all types of diversities. I'm Lisa Dolan, SVP of Employee Engagement and Global Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion for Teleperformance Group. I've been with Teleperformance since 2019 and know just how important it is that every employee feels welcome, included, and can thrive in the environment that they work in. It's critical for every organisation. Joining us today is Angie Buster, Head of Diversity and Inclusion from Khoros. Hi, Angie, and thanks for joining us.
Hi there, Lisa. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Great. So tell us a little bit about Khoros and more about your role as Head of Diversity and Inclusion, Angie.
Sure, yes. As you stated, Angie Buster, and I head up DEI and learning at Khoros. At Khoros, we do deliver top-notch customer engagement software and services for today's digital-first CX world. And I, as the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I make sure that inclusion initiatives and belonging initiatives are implemented throughout our organization.
Great stuff, great. And with the pandemic and remote work that we're now in the new world, what are the new opportunities and challenges on diversity level as recruitment is no longer geographically limited, is it?
It's not. That's a great question. And, you know, the impact of the global pandemic on recruitment continues to take a toll on employment and hiring. And over our past year here, our recruiters have really had to meet new demands and establish effective recruiting practices within our work environment. So, you know, the first challenge that we have, or we continue to have, is just the geography of everything. At one point we were really limited into the candidate pool that we could bring in because, you know, wherever we were geographically located or wherever we had offices, we were, you know, really sourcing from that particular candidate pool. But now, you know, now that we're more hybrid type of workforce, it does give us the opportunity to cast a wider net in, you know, from a geographical perspective in the United States, for sure, look for folks everywhere. And that's been a really great thing. Also selection, you know, we want to make sure that we remove bias from our candidate experience. And so, you know, making sure that we have the right training and removing any type of preconceived notions. And that becomes a little harder too, just because of how we interact now, right? Without that face-to-face and personable activities, it's a little harder to mitigate, you know, from this little box that we're in. So we want to we put a lot of intention around training our managers, our hiring managers. And, you know, one thing that I operate off of is just, if you are an employee, if you are a hiring manager, if you're a recruiter, that means you're a diversity recruiter, right? So it's not one person's job to say, okay, Angie's the diversity lady and she's supposed to make sure we have diverse candidates. No, that's everyone's job to make sure that we have an equitable workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. And how Angie, does Khoros ensure respect and fair work environment amongst all the employees, especially in this new reality world as well?
Yes, great question. So, you know, I am a believer of, business and authentic business, you know, really operates based on human connection, right? And so at Khoros, we do look for creative ways to maintain and cultivate those relationships. You know, sometimes you have to be a little more intentional to create what I like to call the water cooler environment. So we do take programmatic approaches to ensure that we do have a culture of respect and belonging. So if you're a people manager, we have requirements that you take specific trainings to help you understand how to connect with your team and become that one-on-one type of connection. We also have different engagement initiatives. And so when I say that, I'm talking about like our employee resource groups. We have four of those. We have global diversity, equity, and inclusion committees throughout the world. Our QBRs within our functional areas, our quarterly business reviews within our functional areas, all focus on diversity goals, right? So your promotion rates, or how are your survey results turning out, especially within that specific dynamic? Do people feel as if they can bring their authentic selves to work? Supplier diversity, so we have quite a few initiatives that align with some strategic targeted approaches. And then technology, right? We want to make sure that we stay close to the human side of things through technology, because this is our reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how are we reaching out to one another? What types of programs do we have in place to make sure that from a human connection, we can bridge that physical divide, right? To create more effective virtual teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about what your diversity inclusion committee is.
Yeah. So our DEI committee, it's important, right, to ensure that DEI and belonging is at the forefront of everything we do within our ecosystem, right? So we want to be seen as thought leaders within the space. And so the DEI committee's purpose is to educate and spread awareness to the workforce on the collective differences that are represented throughout our world, right? And so the DEI committee really leads to a broader strategic intent that we have at Khoros, which is within our pillars of diversity. So, for example, we have leadership accountability is one of the pillars, right? And so what does that mean to a leader, right? So the leader has to have demonstrated accountability and commitment to DEI initiatives within the top levels of the organization. So how do we shape that? What does that look like from a big picture perspective? And then, how do we truncate that into the functional areas of their world? Then culture enhancement. So how do we build that inclusive, collaborative, open type of innovative work environment? And so within that culture enhancement, that's where I'll say the DEI committees and our ERGs and, mentoring and those types of things fall into that particular pillar, right? Our inclusive recruitment. So we talked about that a little bit earlier. So we want to make sure that we have a strategy that makes sure that we are bringing in and harnessing the best talent. And then effective measurement. It's always important. You want to make sure you put some strategic intent around how we're tracking what we're doing, because what gets measured gets done. So those are, our four pillars. And like I said, from a DEI committee perspective, that cultural enhancement is what leans into that area. So you've asked me some really great questions, Lisa. So let me ask you a question. What about teleperformance? How does teleperformance ensure a fair work environment amongst folks in the room?
Absolutely. So very, very similar to what you've just said in the last couple of questions, to be honest, which is really lovely and reassuring as us as an organisation, knowing that we're quite early on as pushing and driving it with a really clear strategy. So as you do, we have the four pillars of leadership, systems, culture and reputation. And then within there, obviously that transpires down to various levels then across the organisation. We're all responsible for diversity, equity and inclusion. And for us as an organisation, we can all influence that change, and we all want to influence that change as well. So we try and keep it simple in terms of communicating it through to our workforce. From diversity is where we want everybody to be involved and invited to the party. Equity is everybody gets to contribute to the playlist. And then inclusion for us is everybody has that opportunity to dance. And we do absolutely have 5 key resource groups that we look at, all the consistent ones, which I know you absolutely will have, around gender, disability, ethnicity, and then where it's culturally viable, LGBTQ+, and that obviously then spirals. And we too have a committee, a board, and then that board that we've got then filters down into the pyramid, into the resource group leads, and collectively our commitment is to make positive change, to educate our organisation, but also to make sure that what we're trying to do becomes natural, and it's not just another project, it becomes natural to what we want to do as well. So very similar in terms of approach, always ways of growing and learning more, but yes, very similar, which is really good news.
That's great. That's great. And what about your diversity groups? You know, some of your employee resource groups and governance and report structure.
Yeah, so in terms of our group, so we have obviously we started with TP Women, which is our gender balance. So we started with that, and that's grown arms and legs as we've progressed throughout the years. And the focus now is for all of the other resource groups for us to start to shape those to become the people's employee resource groups, and they get involved no matter how small or how great they want to. In terms of MI, we're exactly the same. We will track various MI levels based on our demographics of our staff where possible. And then we obviously then look and track how we're then improving upon that through all of our initiatives, programs, and so on.
Got it. Got it. That's great. That's really good. And you know, one more question, just about your best practice initiatives that you use to create inclusion and unity among your workforce, like especially in this digital world that we're in.
So I think we all know it's been tough, hasn't it, for near enough coming up for 2 years now. And I think technology has absolutely been great to bring all of us together. We utilize platforms like Teams and Zoom more than we ever have done. And actually, it's created more of an inclusive workforce, because you speak to people all over the world, and so do our colleagues that you would never, and we probably never will get the opportunity to meet face to face. And we've done so much stuff from a community point of view, bringing people together to not feel isolated, especially minority groups, to bring them together collectively with people all over the world, which has been absolutely amazing. And sharing that best practice across our various countries that, as you know, we work in, has been a huge success. And we absolutely feel that we are one TP, and we've been brought together over the course of the last 12 to 18 months, more than we probably have in past years, sorry.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And, you know, I just think we have to have that, purpose behind it, and, you know, help folks understand that, you know, we're in this together, right? We're all in this together. So we understand, and, you know, whatever issue you feel like you're having, your counterpart is probably having the same, same issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure today talking to you, Angie. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and also sharing the answers to the questions that we've asked you today. I'd like to thank everybody for listening today as well. And again, please reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'll be happy to share or answer any questions that anybody may have. Thanks so much for your time, and have a great day.